Welcome to One Word Today. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue unpacking supposedly equestrian age character. And yesterday we talked about chain. So this is another specialized metal shape serves a certain function. It is hook. Go is how Chinese say it. And we can see simplified, traditional, and 2000 years ago's dictionary. It progressively looks more simple. And by the time it looks like this, it's like, okay, I can probably can still make some sense out of it because I know on the left side it means metal, and the right side means hook, means even the shape is a little bit like hook shape. Um, versus traditional Chinese. Actually, on the right side, it means a sentence, it means speaking function, like a whole sentence. Like sentence plus metal, it make less sense, right? Versus 2000 years ago, this hook have okay, a little bit about ancient Chinese speaking because okay, when we were taught Chinese in school, we had, of course, we learned the contemporary Chinese use. And then each semester we had a few passages that's from ancient Chinese. Either is in a whole paragraph or article format or in poetry. So formulated five characters, a line, and then four stanzas, something like that, or seven. So we do have ancient Chinese. We call it the classical Chinese uh, segment, and that's distinctly different from contemporary Chinese. Me as a Chinese user, if without a special education of a special like a dictionary to look down, like the really look, get into the rabbit hole of how Chinese was used in ancient times, 2,000 years ago. It's almost like a contemporary English versus Old English. Some English words transform, like they look, sound, and used differently than today. Chinese even more so. Sometimes it's hard to guess exactly what they were talking about. So with my limited knowledge of how classical Chinese was used, is in ancient times, ancient Chinese doesn't have punctuation. Contemporary, we have English, we have commas, semicolons, all that punctuation, and simplified Chinese and probably traditional as well adopted this punctuation system from the West. So now we can visually distinguish a sentence from another sentence, meaning making easier. Ancient times, we don't have that. We don't have punctuation at all. And so how people make, how can people take a breather from sentences? They cannot read from book cover to cover without taking a breath, right? So we have such pause words that marks a group of meaning. Like you can take a rest there and then continue. So we, instead of using symbols to mark the meaning groups, we use a special characters dedicated to mark the end of a group of meaning. So this sentence making, we can almost visually see that this is related speaking. So this is a mouth symbol. And then we have a two kind of interconnected shape like this, right? This twist and turn thing is like a one meaning group. And then we have another one kind of nested, connected with that one and continuing this twist and turning. That's an interesting way for Chinese language itself to visualize how that language works. It got this twist and turning and this interconnecting from one meaning group to another meaning group, and it's not a linear line. And you, as a language user, Chinese is a listener or reader um, heavy. Like they have a lot of decoding to do versus English make it a super, for the most part, explicit. And of course, there are also times when ambivalence, ambiguity is embedded in English as well. But Chinese is like even more so, communication wise. It is it is harder to decode for the reader of the language. So I'm not surprised that visualization wise, we would use this twist and turning icons to mean a meaning group, and then nested with another one as a connection, and with a pause of the speaking. So the whole thing is about one meaning group transition to another meaning group in our speech, and how it's related to hook. I guess this meaning making process, this nesting of meanings, is one leading to another. As I said, no punctuation, so we use a special Chinese characters to mark the end of a group of meaning. And then the next group of meaning connected immediately, kind of nested in a certain way, and then continue twist and turning. And that probably shows you that language, for it to flow from one group to another group, each time you need to have a sort of a glue or a hook to connect, to make sure language have a certain momentum to keep going forward. Otherwise, it loses its momentum. It's kind of become stagnant. Like there's no question mark in your mind, and then you're not going to want to know more. And then it's like the end of the story, the death of continuation of the storytelling. So that's why sentence or this meaning grouping is related to hooking. I mean, to hook, and then paired with this metal symbol, it's like this is the continuation or the hook, something to with the hook to pull the next group of meaning into the scene, into your consciousness, right, into your audio. And then this is made of metal. So that's the literal physical hook. Okay, we have a 钩针、勾弦、勾心斗角。钩针 hook, needle. Can you guess what that is? It is the crocheted. So it is crocheted Chinese. Visualize that it looks like a needle, but it has a hook at the end, and it's used for crocheting purpose. And we simply say 钩针 instead of like a crochet in English. It's another wholly different English word. Unless you check the dictionary, first time you see it, you may not know what that is unless you heard it in your everyday language and guess what that is through context. Otherwise, crocheted just by the word itself doesn't give you a clue. Versus Chinese, we say 钩针 without ever seeing it. Just by 钩针, you can kind of picture what that is. And then when you see the real thing in life, it's like a bingo. That's 钩针. Okay. 勾弦. Honestly, this is my first time I ever came across this expression, but I think it's such a beautiful expression. I'm so glad I came across this. That's the rewarding, that's my gold nuggets that I collected along the way of long hours of recording this and preparing for this, right? 勾弦, never heard of it before. It wasn't used in my everyday language, but when I'm doing this this as an example of how this was used. Hook meta. What is that? Okay. Turn out hook here is almost like a chain of thought. You want to hook your thought onto something, onto what? Onto a metaphysical thinking. And this is Xuan, okay? The whole, like a Zen or Buddhism, have a way to depict how the world operates, right? And Chinese too. In Chinese philosophy, a lot of unspeakable, unexplainable part of our existence or the environment of our existence was attributed to this xuan, this meta, and this like the existence of existence. All right, the derived. So I guess in contemporary understanding, it would be the second degree of something or the precondition of something. It's not our everyday observation can, like we cannot come to such conclusion by everyday, very limited, very partial observation of things because it's so grand and it's so high dimensional. We cannot even wrap up our mind around it. So Xuan, this character, was this dye in, I guess, dye into black color. And that gives you, the mystery, the something in the dark, something you don't know simply out there. And we acknowledge that. And we've used xuan to attribute to the mythical mechanism the world operates that's beyond our current understanding. And that, I mean, I translate as meta. I mean, I don't know what Zuckerberg was thinking when he changed the Facebook into Meta, but apparently Meta was this big word, this big concept. It's like beyond human understanding. And we only have this character, xuan, or English meta, to as the door label, like that's the unknown. So 勾选 is the effort to trying to know, to hook our conscious mind, our intellectual power onto something so grand that's beyond our understanding. So that's 勾选. Apparently, ancient people practice that consciously, spend time. I'm not sure it entails in meditation. Like you just want to think about how the world operates. It's such a big topic, yet you want to place your hook in there. You want to hang on to something to try to be able to understand just a little bit. Okay, 勾心斗角. This is a common expression. It's kind of a house of cards. In the English literature, I mean, I never watch it, but it's about political struggle, like power struggle. Chinese was full of that. Okay, power struggle. Simply because we're highly populated. When human density versus the natural resources, racial is in such that is competitive for anything. And 勾心斗角 became this human behavior or societal level human behavior that for you to get something, you have to really not only rely on your talent itself is not enough. You have to hook your heart and you have to fight your hordes. So hook your heart is almost like intellectual barring. And then fight your horns. Horns is your metal, not your metal, your war piece or your weaponry on your body. So physically attacking versus intellectually hooking. So this hook doesn't mean you're trying to reach a mutual understanding by hooking onto each other's psyche. No, it's the effort to outsmart, outmaneuver your opponent so that you can get access to something that everybody wants. So 勾心斗角 oftentimes used in the context of highly competitive environment. Things like House of Cards of like near power regarding how the power is going to be redistributed. And that's the moment when 勾心斗角 would happen. Like people try to compete, outmaneuver each other to get the biggest piece of pie, so to speak. So that's 勾心斗角. There we go. And just today, when I'm putting this imagery to illustrate what hook is about, apparently here is just a physical piece. If you flip it upside down, just flip, it's a question mark, right? It's the first time I realized the question mark relationship with the hook itself. And I guess in that sense, Chinese almost intuitively back then realized hook is really throwing our question marks around, right? When we say 勾选, it's like we hook our mental curiosity onto something, onto some meta space, may or may not come to understand something. But at least as humans, we have that hooking ability to to make sense of things. That has always been the case with humans, and I'm glad, like language wise, as well as this visual, like a man-made thing, this hook, and how we express hook in Chinese, both kind of pointing us toward this curiosity of mankind. Thank you for your time. See you another day.